Thank you very much to the Master for giving us such a truly wonderful speech. Next, if anyone has anything in life, study or work that they would like to ask the Master about, please do feel free to do so. You are welcome to communicate directly with the Master here on site.
Homage to the Master. I am a middle school teacher, and I would like to ask the Master a question. In my spare time, I promote traditional culture. While we are promoting the standards for being a good student and child, we are now also promoting the 4 books and 5 classics of traditional Chinese culture. As for the 4 books, we are teaching the children to read The Great Learning, The Doctrine of the Mean, The Analects, and Mencius. But what problem are we encountering now during the teaching process? Because the children are young, we have them learn to read first. After they become familiar with the texts, we expect them to memorize them. However, the children don't understand, they don't grasp the meaning. There is a theory children should wait until they grow up to understand the content. Some of the children we are teaching now are in kindergarten. Some of them are already in elementary school, 3rd or 4th grade, or even 2nd or 3rd grade. Sometimes they ask us, "Teacher, what does this mean?" To be honest, Master, I don't understand the meaning either. I also read it first, and only after I become familiar with it do I teach the children. I have a request because there are many explanations out there. Honestly, I don't dare explain it to the children since I don't know if my explanation is correct. So I would like to ask the Master, could you, as you did when you translated the standards for being a good student and child into Tibetan and gave explanations, since you have also published such a book for the standards for being a good student and child, for books like The Great Learning, The Doctrine of the Mean, The Analects, and Mencius, could you also provide a simple introduction for them? Just like your commentary on the Diamond Sutra, with it we feel confident, and I also sincerely hope so that children, while being exposed to traditional culture, can also come into contact with Buddhism. In this way, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism can plant a seed in children from a young age. When they grow up, they will be able to enter a world where they won't be like me, only encountering Buddhism at an older age, at a relatively later stage in life. Let them plant this seed when they are still very young, when they are still in their formative years. I sincerely and respectfully request the Master to teach The Great Learning, The Doctrine of the Mean, Mencius, as well as Laozi and Zhuangzi.
All right. The teacher just now was very passionate and also very responsible when it comes to knowledge. Actually, I have also made this vow before, including The Great Learning, The Doctrine of the Mean, Laozi, and Mencius, as well as having read some other works, the 1,000-character classic, Junzi, and so on. After reading them, I personally felt that it should be possible to explain them from the perspectives of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, without much difficulty. I've also said before that if I am able to teach, one thing is perhaps nowadays when it comes to traditional culture, it's much more accessible to everyone and many people are able to study it. The second reason is that I've noticed that some individuals' methods of interpretation might be rather one-sided. We should thoughtfully integrate various different perspectives. Explaining things in this way might actually be better. I truly do have this aspiration in my heart. But life is short, so I have also carefully considered my own age. And if my life were just a bit longer, then maybe I could translate and teach a bit more. But 10 years passed by very quickly, as I just mentioned. When I first came here more than 10 years ago, I was still quite young. Now, at this stage in my life, I am always truly prepared to leave this world at any time. So it's hard to say. No matter what, I still make this aspiration. As for the second question, what you just mentioned, some teachers' suggestions are correct. I also require at school that they first read the standards for being a good student and child and other traditional works, including, if allowed, the questions of the Naga king Sagara. Children might not understand it, but their memory at this age is excellent. When they recite and memorize these texts, if they can memorize everything now, as they grow older, they will be able to use it at any time once they are adults. Because for us, memorizing texts now is quite difficult. But for children, once they memorize something, it's hard for them to forget it for the rest of their lives. That's why we believe that now, especially in Tibetan Buddhism, there is strong emphasis on encouraging teenagers to memorize as many treatises and scriptures as possible. As they grow up, their ability to understand will increase. So we really hope that everyone, whether it's your own children at home or students at school, will promote this practice more. Even if they don't understand the content, memorizing more is still beneficial. It should be truly meaningful for their future lives indeed.
Hello, Master. I am from the 2013 EMBA Class 8 at East China Normal University. The question I want to ask is this. Nowadays, many people feel restless and distracted. Are there any simple and practical methods that can help us calm and focus our minds amid our busy work schedules so that we can devote more energy to our work and studies? Okay, thank you.
In this very busy and fast-paced era we live in now, in our modern world, I think one method is to recite the Heart Sutra, Prajnaparamita Hridaya Sutra. The Heart Sutra only takes a few minutes to complete. If we recite the Heart Sutra during our daily work or chant the 6-syllable mantra, then through its Sanskrit, through the sound and power of the Buddhist scriptures, the restless waves in our minds can quickly subside. At the same time, once our mindset is adjusted, our work becomes much more powerful.
Following the Master's advice to recite the Heart Sutra, our EMBA program at East China Normal University has begun this practice. So far, we've held 3 group sessions dedicated to reciting the Heart Sutra, just reporting to the Master, and I also hope that other students can join us.
Very good. See, I must have clairvoyance.
Does anyone else have any questions at this point?
Khenpo Delek. My name is Zaxi. I am a doctoral graduate from the School of Medicine at Fudan University. I graduated this year, now working in Shanghai. I have a question that's been on my mind for a while, and I'd like to ask Khenpo, because around me there are many people, this is actually a common phenomenon in society nowadays, people who are searching for faith. And among these people, my friends around me are all highly intelligent and well-educated, with doctoral or master's degrees. But in today's society, as Khenpo just mentioned, sometimes when we try to introduce them to Buddhism, it feels as if we're trying to pull them into something. They feel like they've entered a circle, and it gives them a sense of fear. So my question here is, for people who are searching for faith, how can we carefully and gradually guide them step by step into the nectar of Mahayana Buddhism so that their hearts can truly attain freedom and peace? My question is, Khenpo, do you have any good recommendations or suggestions in this regard? How can I help those around me who are searching for faith to truly find a place of refuge and belonging for their hearts? Thank you, Khenpo. Tashi Delek.
Are you specifically Tibetan or Han Chinese, please?
I'm Tibetan.
Tibetan, right? 조건가래.
나 청원그래.
서론가래.
ngani 특년을 농어 공부하는 특년을 그냥 다시 도지는데.
You see, when the two of us speak in Tibetan,
Yes, he's Tibetan. We've met before at my monastery. You used to come to support medical work, right? At that time, it was Dr. Kong and the others, right? They came for a free clinic activity. Now I remember. Just now, I was thinking, this person looks so familiar. Where have I seen him before? Was it in a past life or in this life that we met? Turns out it wasn't a past life. It was in this life that we met. Because sometimes when you meet someone, it feels like you've never met before. Maybe it's a karmic connection from a previous life, a very familiar feeling. But in the end, it wasn't a past life. It was in this life that we met. So regarding the question he just raised, it's true that nowadays, many people seem to think that when Buddhism is spread, they see Buddhism as dogmatic or consider it just another religion. I don't want to have any kind of faith, but I really want to seek some kind of spiritual nourishment, like chicken soup for the soul. Some people even wish to pursue higher and even more profound states of mind. At this particular point, speaking for myself personally, we don't necessarily have to insist that you must take refuge or that you must. Even in some schools, there might not even be any religious elements present at all, whether it's Buddhism, Christianity, or any other religion. If we look at it, in people's hearts, the space for religious belief in their minds is actually, in fact, quite narrow, or rather, quite limited. If I believe in Buddhism, others may not necessarily believe in Buddhism. So now, I really and sincerely hope that everyone can treat it as a kind of unique and valuable culture. What is discussed in Buddhism, such as the culture of mind training or the culture of seeking truth and understanding, Buddhism truly is, in every sense, a traditional culture. It started as Indian culture and then became a part of the cultures of various countries around the world. When it is integrated with culture, Not only does culture pose no harm to the teachings of Buddhism, but it also makes this culture even more truly and exceptionally brilliant. At this point, we need to understand that Buddhism should become more culturalized, not more religious. Whenever we carry out any activity, there is always a sense of connection with everyone, whether it's in schools, and nowadays, not just in China, but in many places, including when I went to the United States this year, some professors in the US are very averse to others asking whether they have any religious beliefs. Maybe it's a bit better in China. Some professors are clearly Christian, but when interviewed by others, they absolutely refuse to admit it. Some people are clearly Buddhists, but they won't say so. This is not very convenient. Buddhism also does not require everyone to take refuge or to study Buddhism. Therefore, we should promote a kind of culture. In this process, as people with knowledge, like those around him just now, we should thoughtfully and carefully recommend to them some of the valuable and insightful ideas provided by Buddhism, books that are truly acceptable to wise people. If we provide these to them, like the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and also including Khenpo Sodargye's significant work, The Light of Wisdom, many of them skillfully combine science, modern literature, and Buddhism. Books that are written with highly logical and well-structured theories made people more likely to accept them. When the conditions are favorable, people will gradually come to accept the profound Dharma of Mahayana Buddhism.
Hello, Khenpo. I hope you are doing well. I have a question for you today. As the organizer of 3 World Youth Buddhist Symposium, what are your thoughts and opinions on the overall holding of these 3 forums? And I would also like to know, among all the participants in these 3 forums, what changes have you observed in their state? Thank you.
I feel that no matter which school or community I go to, anyone who has participated in the World Youth Buddhist Symposium, maybe this is just my personal opinion, but I feel that their faces radiate more compassion, wisdom, and love. So I personally feel that having already held the first, second, and third sessions, this has been extremely successful. Although the number of participants is not very large, many intellectuals from renowned higher education institutions have indeed actively taken part. Through the thoughtful exchange and dynamic collision of their collective wisdom, each of them has also gained a great deal of valuable spiritual wisdom. Of course, I also hope that in the future, the coming era will be in the hands of young people, and young people should have more opportunities to learn these very profound forms of wisdom. We shouldn't spend all our time placing all our values on money, status, or things that are not truly meaningful or valuable. If we do so, it may not necessarily be beneficial for ourselves or for our families. Therefore, I especially hope that in the future, many young people are able to encounter early on the important truths and wisdom that you need to come across in this lifetime. By taking fewer detours, we can achieve the greatest success in life.
Hello, Khenpo. I am a scientific researcher by profession. For approximately the past 4 years, or perhaps a little longer, I have been continuously engaged in working on a very large research project. This project is known to be highly controversial within the scientific community. During these 4 years, there have been many people believed that I should terminate it and not make the results public, because based on our research results, some people might use them in undesirable ways. Over these 4 years, I have actually been pushing forward despite a lot of resistance. Now the results are out, but they haven't been published yet. However, I am actually very hesitant myself because I have indeed found that it is really quite challenging to explain the true significance of our research to the general public. Many people might, based on some misunderstandings, go on to do some undesirable things. So I'm not sure whether I should publish these results now. I don't know much about Buddhism either. It was a friend who brought me here. But I am very confused about this issue.
Actually, the disputes among young people will often, in time, eventually calm down. Because in Chinese, the character for quiet, Jing, is made up of the character for youth, Qing, next to the character for dispute, Jing. So young people argue and argue, but in the end, they will settle down. Therefore, I think that as a scientist, it's normal to have many differing opinions and ideological disputes. But in the end, not everyone will necessarily be completely satisfied. I once heard a little story. There was a thrush, a bird that lived in the mountain forest. It held a special concert for all the birds, for all the flying creatures. At that time, a crow stood up. All the other birds said the singing was wonderful, but the crow disagreed, saying the singing was terrible. Later, in order to please the crow, the thrush specially sought out a teacher. The second time it held a concert. The thrush's singing was so good that even the crow admitted it. But the others didn't agree, saying its singing was really absolutely awful to listen to. So I think all of these disputes, according to Tibetan Buddhism, they are resolved through the logic and debate of Buddhist reasoning. The final result can be said to be the very essence of thought, carefully refined through countless trials.
Hello, Master. I am a graduate student from the School of Business at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics. I am also studying the way of the Bodhisattva. After studying the Dharma, I feel that Buddhism has truly been very beneficial in my daily life. So my question is, for my parents' generation, and also my grandmother and other elders in my family, their level of education may not be that high, but they think that being a Buddhist just means burning incense and worshipping the Buddha. I want to talk to them about Buddhist teachings and encourage them to learn, but in their view, burning incense and worshipping the Buddha already, in their perspective, makes them Buddhists. So I really want them to understand the meaning behind things like why we burn incense and worship the Buddha and so on. But because their educational background isn't very high, they might not be willing to study systematically. In this situation, what should I do? I really hope these elders can also learn about Buddhism. Thank you.
I think the elders and the younger generation should sign a formal contract and reach a consensus together. You should also agree to join them in burning incense and worshipping the Buddha, and they should agree to learn Buddhism together with you, together. This is the basic condition for any kind of cooperation.
Homage to the greatly kind Guru. I am a teacher from Jiangsu, and I have two questions I'd like to ask. The first question is, you once made a vow at Mount Wutai and said, if we recite the great cloud of blessings 10,000 times, will we be able to be with you life after life? Does this mean that wherever you are in the next life, on whichever planet, we will also be on that planet? My second question is, I saw a statement online. I'm not sure if it's true, so I'd like to ask you to verify it. There's a saying online that you might only guide us Han Chinese for 30 years. So I'd like to ask, is this statement true? There are only a few years left. After these years, will there be an extension?
Regarding your two questions, for the first question, we recite together the great cloud of blessings. Actually, I think it was around June or July last year when I made a vow at Wutai Mountain to recite it 10,000 times within a year and a half. This year, I want to make the vow again. What I mean is, I'm not talking about supernatural powers, that in the future, whoever is with whom, we will be together on any planet. But in fact, it is indeed stated in the Buddhist scriptures that whatever kind of vow you make in a sacred place, you will achieve that kind of result. So I also think that for those individuals who share the same karmic connection with me, when I read the biography of Shakyamuni Buddha, it shows that those who made vows together in the past all realized their shared dreams in the future. So I also make vows. One is to spread the Dharma and benefit sentient beings. And another is that life after life, I will never be separated from the Mahayana Dharma. If anyone is willing to make such a vow together, I am also willing to make this vow with them. So I especially hope that in the future we can sincerely pray and make heartfelt vows together as a group. It truly is very meaningful for anyone, regardless of their background or beliefs, to make such a vow with genuine intention. Of course, sometimes, as you just mentioned about this planet, some time ago I saw that our current Earth, as it exists today, in the context of the entire universe, is not even as significant as a speck of dust. It's extremely, extremely tiny. At times like this, we feel that life is very fragile, but the power of our vows is also very strong. No matter when it is or what circumstances we are in, we always need to make vows, as these promises are important in guiding us. As for the second question you asked, I believe I have mentioned this before, but I am happy to explain it again for clarity. After a few more years have passed, since I started guiding Han Chinese in the year 1987, if we count in round numbers and consider the passage of time, it will be approximately the year 2016, which is about when it will have been a full 30 years. I said that I really, truly hope to actually complete 30 years, but I didn't say what would happen after that. I never said I would stop leading, nor did I say I would continue. Because I think, just like in many stories from Buddhist history, many people have spread the Dharma or taught the scriptures for many years. There is this kind of saying, so I personally hope that nowadays many Buddhist practitioners in the Han region are very wise and have great faith. Especially now, there are many young people. And what I hope for most is that it's not that I look down on the elderly, but young people will be the driving force and important figures in society in the future. Moreover, many universities and many young people from prestigious institutions like yours have done some research on Buddhism. At this particular time, we all have a certain level of responsibility to society. So I especially and sincerely hope that in the future, we will have plenty of time to make aspirations together, to promote and study Buddhism together. I've also never said that after 30 years, that's it. I've never said that, nor have I ever thought about it. I still sincerely hope to continue learning.
I am currently an MBA student at East China Normal University, class of 2012. I myself am also a teacher, and it's truly an honor to meet so many teachers here today. In fact, this is something I haven't encountered in over a year of studying at East China Normal University. Just now, the master actually mentioned having had many arguments with psychology teachers. Actually, I am also a psychological counselor, though I haven't studied Buddhism yet. However, personally, I feel that psychology and Buddhism probably share the same roots. My question today is, to be honest, actually a personal one. I am a teacher, and specifically a teacher at a private school. In other words, what people commonly call an elite school. These children all come from very wealthy families. You could say that many of them are born already standing at the finish line, that the rest of us strive for. But since the Wenchuan earthquake in 2008, I have been paying attention to the schooling issues faced by children in mountainous areas. I also have a dream, although honestly, I'm not sure if I can really call it a dream. I truly wish to go teach in the mountains as a volunteer, sincerely. But ever since I had this idea, I felt a lot of resistance. First of all, from my family. They don't really understand, and my child is still very young. I'm also afraid of missing out on my own child's growing up process. My own time and energy are also very limited, with work and studying keeping me busy. So, in short, this idea still hasn't been fully realized up to now. This summer, I traveled to Guizhou, and in the city of Jijin, Guizhou, I noticed a lot of different slogans. These were about compulsory education, and one of them went like this: keeping school-aged children at home and not sending them to school is illegal. I felt that this slogan really struck a nerve with me at the time, because in my own upbringing, I never really suffered much hardship. Although my family wasn't well off, we were never truly poor either. I can't really understand how there are still some school-aged children who, even when it's time for them to go to school, still often choose to stay at home instead of attending. But as for me personally, I'm not a very materialistic person, but I can't claim to be above it all either. There are still many material things that I pursue myself. Even now, I still can't let go of my own personal lifestyle. I don't know how to go about realizing this dream of mine either. All I can do, for example, is send used textbooks from students to the remote and mountainous areas and encourage my colleagues to send clothes they no longer wear to those regions as well. But I feel it's very hard for me to actually take that step and go to the mountains myself. That's all I have to say on this issue. Thank you.
Very good. Regarding this question, I'll answer it in 3 parts. First, in the past, with my psychology teacher, the main conflict was that he was strongly opposed to Buddhism. At that time, I didn't really understand Buddhist studies either. Later, whenever I studied some Buddhist texts, like the Abhidharmakosha and Yogacara, I would think, if only I had understood this back then, I should have said this to refute my teacher at the time. I kept thinking about it afterwards. Actually, at the time, I didn't really agree with him in principle. But in terms of reasoning, there were some points where I couldn't out-argue my teacher. that did happen. So some of the debates I had with my psychology teacher mainly stemmed from the fact that he opposed Buddhism at every turn, and I felt that was unreasonable. Besides, I also know that Buddhism is actually a particularly good form of psychology. And in some of my earlier published works, I often quoted many psychology professors, scientists, and teachers. In fact, psychology really has developed from there. If you study it in depth, the Yogacara school of Buddhism and the Abhidharmakosha are very important. For the second point, let me directly address your confusion. Actually, having such dreams and such aspirations as you do, especially as someone living in a big city like Shanghai, and particularly as a dedicated teacher at an elite and highly respected school, I really admire you. Because I myself have also built 2 elementary schools in my hometown, and I'm currently planning to build a middle school as well. The reason for this, including in my own family, is that I have a younger brother and 3 younger sisters, and none of them ever went to school. I was the only one who ever received an education. My parents were both illiterate. In the past, they couldn't even write their own names. So I realized that in this society, there are still so many people who can't even write their own names. There are really a lot of them. If our next generation ends up like this, it would be truly unfortunate. Therefore, I have devoted all my energy, aside from teaching and giving lectures, to investing everything I have into the education of these impoverished children. I think if anyone here has this intention, even if you can't be physically present for the time being, as long as you have this intention, you can actually accomplish a great deal, directly or indirectly. At a certain point, the power of the heart is incredibly strong. When the right conditions come together, maybe you won't be able to stay for a long time. But even if you can only spend a few months, a couple of months, 3 months, or perhaps in Tibet, there might be such opportunities, or in other places, there are also very good opportunities for volunteer teaching. And thirdly, this can be considered the final summary of our lecture today. It seems that many of you here are studying education and many are teachers. I especially hope that each of us, who may be responsible for many, even dozens or hundreds of children like this, while the accumulation and growth of knowledge is very necessary, what's even more important is some guidance for the mind. Nowadays, many children lack guidance for their inner world. Even their own parents often don't understand what psychological adjustment means. So I especially hope that you don't necessarily have to teach Buddhist philosophy, but you can pass on some wisdom and compassion that are truly helpful to them. Often combine these with traditional cultural knowledge, so that in the process of their growth, not only does their knowledge develop, but more importantly, their moral skills should also grow. I hope you will make extra efforts in this regard. Thank you.
Hello, Master. I am the mother of a 3-year-old child. May I please ask, how might I introduce Buddhism to a 3-year-old perhaps?
For a 3-year-old, you can often recite Om Mani Padme Hum and Amitabha softly by their ear. Gradually, the influence of the family will take effect. Last night, while I was having dinner, I was with an Olympic champion from Shanghai. Why does he have faith today? He said that, in fact, it was the influence of his parents when he was 3 or 4 years old. Because at the age of 3 or 4, if parents make it a habit to visit temples and pay their respects to Buddha statues, showing their appreciation for Buddhist traditions, then at the very least, their child will not reject Buddhism or develop negative feelings towards it. So, the words and actions of parents are a form of education for the child. You don't have to make him learn deeper knowledge every day now. There's no need to force him to study more advanced teachings at this stage. But if you guide him to grow gradually through your actions, this is just one of his experiences in learning Buddhism. There's no need to rush.
But I'm afraid he might become a monk.
She's afraid that perhaps her child might possibly become a monk in the future.
Becoming a monk, well, it's really not that easy to become a monk. For example, it's a bit like when someone says they're afraid their child will go to a teacher's college in the future. Because to become a monk, you truly need to have that special ability. Even if you want him to become a monk, even if you hope for it, it might not actually happen.
Respected teacher, hello. My question today is because I myself run a business, specifically in the automotive repair industry. In the auto repair industry, there is an important aspect that often comes up. Because cars require painting, that is one essential part of it. But what I've always struggled with a bit is, during this process, it does have some impact on the environment, because when you spray paint, the fumes do have some effect on the environment, including our company's employees when they're doing this work. I feel like, honestly, it's not really good for their health either, to be honest. So I feel a bit conflicted about it, but I'm still working in this industry myself. So I'm thinking, how do I actually make choices and compromises as I go about my work? Because right now, at this very moment, I have no choice but to do this. I ask the Master for guidance, please.
Since I'm not very familiar with this industry, I don't really have the authority to answer directly. But actually, when I analyze it with my own thoughts, it's not just the auto industry. It's the same in any other industry. Nowadays, you can't find any industry that has absolutely no negative side effects. Because our openness and development are actually directly connected to destruction and harm in many respects. This is true for any country. Why is it that some Western countries nowadays are reluctant to pursue aggressive development? It's actually because they're afraid their resources and their entire environment will be damaged to some extent. Even now, things like eating, wearing clothes, taking medicine, and drinking water, all of these involve technologies that carry certain risks or harms. So if you observe this from a professional standpoint, if the harm isn't particularly severe, just a little bit, I think living in this world today, there's nothing that comes without any side effects, except for the Pure Land. Nothing like that exists now. So, if the harm isn't particularly significant, it's simply better to just keep going.
Thank you very much, Master, for your guidance.
All right, time really flies. Just now, while the Master was giving the talk, everyone heard, we could very clearly and strongly feel the Master's compassion for the world, especially for young students, or for those of us in teacher training, or for those young students who are about to enter the workforce, that pure-hearted, sincerely caring care. And then, during our Q&A session, everyone should also have been able to sense the Master's all-encompassing wisdom. Please, everyone, stand up and put your hands together in prayer. Let us thank the Master for the lecture he gave us today.